Arsenal hosted PSG in the Champions League semi-final. The game finished 1-0 to PSG, and for the first 30 minutes, it looked like they were going to run away with it. They dominated possession, scored inside 5 minutes, and made it almost impossible for Arsenal to build any momentum. After the match, Mikel Arteta admitted his side struggled early on, but he pointed to a tactical tweak he made in the first 20 minutes, one he believes changed the game in his side's favour. When asked what was a tactical change by the reporter, in typical Mikel fashion, he kept his cards close to his chest. In this video, we're going to break down what made PSG so dominant in those opening stages, what Arteta's tactical adjustment was, and if it actually made a difference. Heading into the game, there were quite a lot of intriguing tactical battles, but none more important than how Arsenal would deal with Ousmane Dembele. He's arguably been the most informed player in Europe this calendar year, and though he started as a striker, he spent much of this game dropping deep into midfield, so that raised a key question. Would Arteta trust his defenders to step out and follow him, or would they hold their line and risk giving him space? In the opening stages, Arsenal chose the latter. The centre-backs held their shape, but with Dembele constantly dropping deep, Arsenal's 4-4-2 quickly became overloaded in midfield. The centre-backs weren't marking anyone, and the midfielders were outnumbered. PSG took full advantage. With control of the ball in the midfield, they pinned Arsenal back almost at will. The supply line to Arsenal's forwards were completely cut off. Odegaard, who's arguably Arsenal's most influential playmaker, didn't make his first pass until the 21st minute. Here's what's interesting. Despite dominating the middle, PSG didn't simply try to suffocate Arsenal. They wanted to bait them into pressing. And it worked. Early on, PSG kept recycling possession back to their goalkeeper, inviting pressure, and sprang a trap that led to the opening goal. They were enticing Arsenal to press them high. In build-up, PSG set up in a 3-2 shape. Marquinhos, Pacho and Nuno Mendes formed the back three, with Vitinha, Ruiz as the double pivot. Arsenal pressed aggressively when Mendes received the ball on the left. That triggered Kvaratskhelia to drop short. When this happened, Ruiz made an opposite run to his left winger to create space and get away from his marker. Rice, who was tasked with marking Ruiz, was pulled out wide to follow him, and it left massive spaces in the middle of the park. As Ruiz's run was timed so well, he was able to get away from Rice. So when Mendes had the ball under pressure, he played a brilliant diagonal pass into the centre circle where Dembele had dropped deep once again. Completely unmarked, he received the ball with time and space. PSG now had a 5-on-4 and were charging towards Arsenal's goal. Dembele released it wide to Kvaratskhelia, who squared up Timber 1v1. Rice, who was at the edge of the box initially marking Dembele, rushed to help his teammate, but the rest of Arsenal's defenders didn't react. That left Dembele free at the edge of the box. Kvaratskhelia found him with a cutback and PSG were up 1-0. This was a move that was clearly rehearsed, with a sequence of 26 passes which led to the goal. It was something similar to what PSG had done to Liverpool a few rounds earlier, enticing them early on before using Dembele as a free man in midfield who was able to get away and attack Liverpool's back line. For the first 20 minutes, the Arsenal players watched Dembele do as he pleases at the Emirates, so Mikel Arteta, seeing this, he had to make a change, to which he did. When William Pacho had the ball, he attempted to make the same play as Nuno Mendes did for the goal, hoping that Dembele would be free in the midfield to pick up the ball and drive at Arsenal's back line. But the tactical change that Mikel Arteta made was he had Arsenal's centre-halves much closer to Dembele, touched tight on him, following him all the way. This allowed Arsenal to get back into their shape without Dembele causing them any problems. So with Saliba marking Dembele tightly, getting rid of the problems they had early on, it made it much easier for Arsenal to press PSG, forcing them to long balls, which Arsenal were able to win, allowing them to sustain attacks and put PSG under more pressure. With Thomas Partey being suspended for this game, it meant there was a reshuffle in Arsenal's midfield. Declan Rice, who has been superb playing as a box-to-box, had to play in a deeper position, replacing Thomas Partey. And Marino, who has been in great goal-scoring form as a striker, you can see how this affected Arsenal early on in terms of build-up. With Declan Rice replacing the role of Thomas Partey, he was unable to really progress play and he was being outnumbered in midfield, with Marino playing high up the pitch. It forced Arsenal into a lot of turnovers and bad possession, where PSG were able to recycle possession and put pressure on Arsenal. Mikel Arteta had to do something about this, and which he did. He had Mikel Merino, who was playing high up the pitch, drop a lot deeper, helping Rice with build-up, and also Miles Lewis-Skelly inverted a lot more from left-back, often picking up positions where you'd find Thomas Partey. This allowed Arsenal to progress the ball much easier. It gave David Raya, Saliba and Kiwior far more options to progress the ball. This allowed Declan Rice to receive help from his midfielders and Miles Lewis-Skelly inverting, where the PSG players weren't able to outnumber the Arsenal players in the first phase of build-up. With the tweaks in midfield, Arsenal were able to have a lot more balance in the game. They were able to attack far quicker and with more purpose. Miles Lewis-Skelly was key in this. He'd often drop deep into midfield, acting as the single pivot, in which he had time and space to progress play. Luis Enrique combated this by using Hakimi, the right back, to mark Miles Lewis-Skelly. This was a risky move by Luis Enrique, as Hakimi had to track him from a far distance. If he was a second too slow, PSG would have probably been in trouble. Right before the break, this was seen when Miles Lewis-Skelly picked the ball up from midfield. With Hakimi hunting him down, he was able to brush him to the side, and there was gaps appearing in the PSG defence. So Lewis-Skelly took his time and he was able to split the defence, putting in Martinelli clean through with a one-on-one chance, which was saved by Donnarumma. Before the game, this was probably the biggest question mark regarding Luis Enrique's side. In the previous round, they struggled against Aston Villa's midfielders who were able to carry the ball from deep, especially with John McGinn. Declan Rice showcased his brilliant ball carrying ability in the previous round against Real Madrid. However, as he was the deepest midfielder for a lot of this game, he was unable to really showcase this skill. There was a moment, however, where Hakimi was fixated on Lewis-Skelly, who was slightly out wide, and he gave Rice the opportunity to go on one of his signature runs. And as he did, no PSG player was able to get anywhere near him. He got on his bike and he slipped Trossard in and forced a great save from Donnarumma. If Arsenal are to advance to the final, then they're going to have to utilise their midfield strengths, mainly the ball carrying from Miles Lewis-Skelly and Declan Rice. With Thomas Partey being back, it will be quite fascinating to see how PSG do deal with him. Do PSG have anyone that can match his physicality and his athleticism? As great as PSG are, that's probably their one glaring weakness, and I'm sure Mikel Arteta has noticed that and will try to exploit it as much as he can. This tie is definitely far from over. Both teams have a really good chance of advancing to the next round. Of course, PSG are the favourites, being the home side and also having the 1-0 lead. But if Arsenal do play less conservative, they can definitely pose a lot of threats to Paris Saint-Germain. And it will be quite interesting to see how Luis Enrique does set up if Arsenal play an aggressive approach. Comment who you think will be the players to watch out for and who you think will advance to the next round. And until next time, peace.